For most, Black History Month is a time to remember and celebrate African Americans' contributions to our country's greatness. But for those running D.C. public schools, it's an opportunity to brainwash kids.
The first week of February marks Black Lives Matter at School Week of Action. Black Lives Matter movement is guided by 13 principles. Starting in 2021, DCPS officially endorsed the Black Lives Matter School Week of Action and is committed to expanding student understanding of these principles this week and throughout the year.
What exactly are these principles? Well, we got our hands on them. Here are two of the most disturbing. These were passed out to all the teachers in D.C. The first is called Black Villages and calls for dismantling the Western prescribed nuclear family structure. And another is called Black Families, which requires, quote, dismantling patriarchal practice. Joining me now is Carol Swain, former professor of political science at Princeton and Vanderbilt Universities, author of the new book, Be the People, A Call to Reclaim America's Faith and Promise. Carol, we've only gotten to a few of these so-called principles that are being sent out to teachers as part of an anti-racist curriculum in university. Your reaction, especially to the nuclear family priority, anti-nuclear family priority?
It's not just that. It talks about queer affirming culture, transgenderism. And you think about how could that be a guiding principle that's productive for our children? And one thing that really disturbs me is that this is not a principle, but one of their goals is zero tolerance for discipline. And we know that in the inner cities, there's a lot of violence that takes place in the classroom. Kids that are disruptive, they're not suspended any longer, they're kept there. And the last thing the Black community needs in schools is a situation where there is no discipline. Part of the problem that affects the community is the disrespect for authority. That is why there's so much turmoil in the Black community. And so the curriculum put forth by Black Lives Matter and being embraced in too many places is really destructive of the Black community and the Black family and racial justice.
But they make this clear. I mean, one of the principles is to, quote, disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family. Now, Black Lives Matter, absolutely 100%, but how does that help Black Lives Matter? How does that help? How does that help?
It doesn't help Black people, it doesn't help white people, it doesn't help America. And I would strongly encourage everyone who cares about education to go to the Black Lives Matter website and learn more about them and their principles, because there's nothing there that advances our society in a way that's beneficial. And it's very unfortunate that so many corporations gave them millions of dollars that stayed with the national headquarters, and so they're pushing forth critical race theory, Marxism. They're using that money to teach children principles that will be life-sapping rather than life-giving.
Bernie Sanders, by the way, Carol, has gone from like this far-left icon to racial villain over his viral inauguration photo. A California teacher writing in the San Francisco Chronicle, "What did I think my students should see? A wealthy, incredibly well-educated and privileged white man showing up for perhaps the most important ritual of the decade in a puffy jacket and huge mittens. Sanders manifests privilege, white privilege, male privilege, and class privilege." Carol, maybe everybody needs to lighten up a little bit, but the left will apparently eat their own over all of this.
They are destroying our children and the American education system, and too many people in authority have not really investigated Black Lives Matter, what they stand for. They're more than a slogan. They're an organization that's Marxist. They're very destructive. It's ludicrous that they were nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. We live in an insane world, and it's time that we wake up, work together. We're not going to help Black children or white children or America by pursuing the strategies that they outline.
Well, we're going to be tackling this all week because somebody has to, and we're going to do that. But Carol, D.C. public schools, remember, they haven't even been in school for most of the past 10 months. And yet this is, you know, the money and all the money being spent on this. People are making a lot of money on the diversity racket. And thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it.